Dear speakers, dear guests, dear fighters, I would say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to host the launch of the SIOPE strategic plan, a European Cancer Plan for Children and Adolescents, as president of MIPS Against Cancer group in the European Parliament. By the way, we will celebrate 10 years of our work soon in December. And Commissioner Andriukaitis has assured his presence at that occasion, so I suppose some of you will be present there as well. Although there has been considerable progress in the treatment of childhood cancers over the past few decades, and cancer in childhood is rare, these are major problems that need to be overcome. Cancer is still the first cause of death by disease in children in Europe. 6,000 young people die from cancer each year, and the majority of survivors experience adverse late effects with impact on quality of life. This is a serious problem for patients, their families, and for health services, with major inequalities existing across Europe. The European Cancer Plan for Children and Adolescents has already achieved an important milestone of broad multi-stakeholder consensus, including the prominent role of parents, patients, and survivors. I look forward to discuss the best ways towards the implementation through joint efforts, collaborative models, and enabling EU initiatives today, and I trust we will thus prepare a brighter future for children and adolescents with cancer in the European Union. Now I am pleased to offer the floor to Professor Gilles Vassal, SIOPE President. Dr. Vassal is Professor of Oncology, University Paris Sud, as well as Director of Clinical Research at Gustave Roussy. So, the floor is yours. Just one more remark. I would say, some of you saw that we are running MEPs here and there, and we are trying to I would say, to participate in different stories or agendas in this House, and we have to deal as politicians with many cancers at the same time. And one of those cancers is terrorism, which is present in Europe, which did a tragedy in Paris, and today again we said we are all people from Paris, but first of all, here we have to be responsible people because we were elected to represent the others, and I do hope that the European Union will be able to show more unity, more dynamics, and more efficiency in the future. Mr. Vassal,
Thank you very much, Mr. Peterle, for hosting this meeting. It's extremely important for us to be here today in the House of Europe, where there's still horror ongoing in the very close country where I am from. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to launch this plan. And I would like just to give the microphone to Professor Martin Schraper. Professor Martin Schraper is the SIOPE-elect president, which means that on January 1st, he will be the president of SIOPE Europe. So he will be chairing this meeting with you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I appreciate your words of unity for Europe. I think this is something which is very serious and goes beyond the topic that we discuss here today. And I think we all feel very close to our friends in France and in Paris. And this is unfortunately a cancer which will not be cured today. But coming back to the real issue of pediatric cancer and leukemia, I think we have today a very important event, and the size of the group here in the room indicates that the interest is large. SIOPE Europe is the umbrella organization of all cancer and leukemia groups in Europe, and under the leadership of Gilles Vassal, in the last few months and years, we have accomplished something which is quite unique. And this is why we meet today with the representatives of the European Parliament to get this across. And if you look at your table, there's a little thing here in this gray package, and this contains what Jill will tell you in, of course, much more detail than I can do that. And you find all the information on the stick. This is modern technology that we don't distribute much paper. You can load it on your computer. You can also contact our SIOPE Europe office and you can receive additional information. Before I let and ask Jill to get started and explain our strategic plan for the future, I would like to remind all the speakers that the full session will be recorded, not by the NSA, by TV stations here and also by SIOPE Europe, and the contributions will be visible on the website of SIOPE Europe. I'm very thankful for this because it gives opportunity also to people who cannot attend today to see what is going on. I think we have picked 3 major issues for the subsequent part after Jill has finished, which are in the focus of our future activity in the next few years. And now I would like to ask Jill to get started with presentation of the strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. So in 2011, a project called ENCA was selected and funded by the European Union, asking us to structure clinical research and translational research for children and adolescents. This project, led by Ruth Ladenstein, really made some quite important achievements. One of these achievements is to propose a long-term sustainable strategic plan for the future. And today, I would like just to summarize what we want to do in the next years in order to be supported by the member of the parliament, in order to have the European Union considering that this plan is an important plan that should be implemented across Europe, in the European Union and beyond the European Union. Cancer is rare in young people in Europe, but 35,000 new cases each year in Europe. More than 300,000 European citizens are childhood cancer survivors, and we do know that almost 2/3 of them have long-term side effects of the disease or the treatment. But beyond the high cure rate that we are very pleased we achieved during the last 40 years in this young population, 6,000 young people die each year of cancer. The very important message is that cancer is still the first cause of death by disease beyond 1 year of age in Europe, which means it is still a public health issue. And what we do propose with this plan is to tackle this issue and to address these numbers. So the SIOPE strategic plan aims to achieve by 2025 an increase in cure rate for patients with poor prognosis malignancies, an increase in quality of life for survivors of childhood cancer, and aims to tackle inequalities across Europe because there are still major inequalities across Europe. It is a long-term sustainable strategic plan that has been designed, as I mentioned, in ENCA, a network of excellence of 7th framework program of the European Union. We established 7 objectives to address this overarching goal. The first one is to introduce safe and effective innovative therapies in standard care. Because we know that in some disease, survival curves are plateauing, and we need new treatment to improve cure rate. Second, to install precision can medicine, which is elsewhere named personalized cancer medicine, to help guide therapeutic decision, better using the information about the tumor and the patient to identify the best treatment to achieve cure. Third, to increase knowledge on the tumor biology of these pediatric malignancies, because without understanding what is in the tumor, we will not make progress. And translating this knowledge as fast as possible for the patient is one of the important goals of this plan. Number 4, to bring about equal access across Europe, access to standard care, access to expertise, access to clinical research. because we know there are 10 to 20% differences across Europe with regard to the probability to be free of disease at 5 years. The fifth objective is to address the specific needs of teenagers along with those of young adults in cooperation with adult oncology. And this is a very important need. They do have specific needs not well addressed at the moment. The sixth objective is to improve the quality of survivorship, and we will discuss this today. How can we reduce the risk of long-term sequelae in those childhood cancer survivors? How can we give them the chance of a normal life in European Union, being a full European citizen, voting, for example? And seventh, how can we better understand the cause of pediatric cancer? At the moment, one of the first questions raised by the parents, why my child got cancer? And most of the time we cannot answer this question. It's crucial that we use all the technology being now available to better understand the causes of pediatric cancer, because it will be an important way to improve cure rate as well as quality of cure. SIOPE Europe is a European Society of Pediatric Oncology, more than 1,500 members across 31 countries beyond the European Union in Europe, and will coordinate, facilitate this implementation of this plan. And this will be done with the national groups and the clinical trial groups who are doing the trials and the research for children with neuroblastoma, leukemias, brain tumors. All together, we will implement this plan and coordinate. This will be done as well in partnership with parents, patients, and survivors. And we established a formal partnership between SIOPE Europe and CCI. Together, we established this plan. Together, we will implement it. And today, there is a very good image from here. This is you, parents, patients, survivors, pediatric oncologists, and all people, stakeholders, willing to make this a reality for children and adolescents with cancer. We will implement tools to implement this plan, facilitating platforms and cross-tumor programs, a platform to facilitate the implementation of clinical trial, because in 2014, members of the Parliament voted the new clinical trial regulation, which is hoped to change the way we provide children with clinical research. And we will implement this platform to facilitate this implementation, the new drug, the new clinical trial regulation into our day-to-day activity. We will launch the PICORET project, which is clinical epidemiology, a platform for outcome research, to monitor the progress that we will make with this plan. We will launch the platform for quality assurance in radiotherapy, to be sure that when radiotherapy is provided for a child, all quality assurance is set up with the program needed to do so. We have implemented a platform, a multi-stakeholder platform with parents, academia, regulators, and pharmaceutical companies to improve the way new drugs are developed for children and adolescents with cancer. And this will be briefly mentioned later on. We will have a program on ethics, social sciences, and humanities. We will build an IT portal, a tool, because we need to have better IT tool to work together and to implement this plan. And we will try to network the biobanks, because having access to these tumor samples is very important to make progress for science, but also for the patients. In addition, we will implement our oncopolicy program. We are very active, and we are very pleased to have in the Parliament a very strong supporter. You, Mr. Peterle, Mrs. Glenis Willmott, Mrs. Françoise Grostet, and others who we know support our actions, are willing to do best for children and adolescents with cancer. We have the cross-border healthcare directive and the clinical trial regulation that we mentioned. In the implementation, these are very important framework for us in this plan. One of the key topics in the next year will be the pediatric medicine regulation, and we will discuss this, because we need you to have a very careful evaluation of this regulation voted almost 10 years ago, and to figure out how to improve it for the future. And you are doing at the moment the regulation on data protection. We want to be sure that it will address properly the needs of children and adolescents with cancer without jeopardizing what we want to do. And more recently, or in the very near future, a joint action on rare cancers we hope will consider pediatric malignancies in order to facilitate the implementation of this proposal today, a European plan, into the national cancer plan. And we will have also education and training, because clearly it's absolutely key to train the health professionals, young investigators, nurses, and all the others to be sure that they can provide the best care for these patients. So clearly we will need funding. And we know that funding will come from several sources, from the Horizon 2020 program, from Health and Food Safety program in Europe, from IMI, but also at the national level, including organizations and charities, being able to, from the generosity of people, to co-fund this program, and from industry as well. But we need, and this is one of the key questions, to have those people committed, to have those people considering this is important and there is a need to invest. Because now we are ready. We have projects, we will implement, and we will need a very strong support, and we will report to them. So today we will address three main questions: inequalities with Irina and Ruth, innovation with Patricia and Pam, survivorship with Jaap and Ricardo, and we hope through this example to give you better the impression, not the impression, but what we want to do in this plan. So I would like to thank everyone who did participate, who did contribute to this plan, because we think it's an important achievement, but just the first step for the near future. And I would like here today to thank them very much. So the question today, we have a strategic plan. We named it a European Cancer Plan for Children and Adolescents with Cancer. We would like that after this meeting, it is the European Cancer Plan, the plan of the European Union to be implemented across the member states and beyond the member state for children with cancer. And the message is cure more, cure better, and tackle inequalities. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jill. You kept on time as well, very precisely. Fantastic. I would like to welcome actually another colleague from the European Parliament, the Vice President of the MAC, Pavel Poss. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Welcome to this group today. Very thankful that you are here and that MAC is so visible for all of us, because, you know, we are eager to get our agenda across to all of you. Thanks for coming. If Jill, if you agree, and if everybody here on the podium agrees, I would like to continue in our agenda. We have picked, as I mentioned in the beginning, 3 areas in which we want to illustrate to you not only the expert view, but also the view of those who are directly involved. And if you look at the program, we have 3 areas which are inequality, innovation, and survivorship, in which we have picked 2 people each, one representing the inside view and one representing the expert and outside view. And this will be the concept for the next few minutes. And I would like to ask Irina to get started. She is, fortunately, the mother of a young man who survived leukemia many years ago. It makes me feel good because my background scientifically is leukemia, but I'm sure that your son faced a different situation that time as it would be today. But still, as Jill mentioned, we have severe inequalities in the cure of children with cancer, I believe also for other cancers. And this is one of the big challenges for the next few years, to make sure that a child in any country of the European community will have the same good chances of getting cured. So please, Irina.
First, Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today and to represent parents of children with cancer. Well, as you heard, I'm a mother of a long-term child coming from Belgrade, from Serbia. So from the very beginning of my son's illness, I was active in the parents' organizations at local, regional, national, and international level. And I'm also a former board member of the Childhood Cancer International, where I represented parents from so-called East European countries. So therefore, I've been asked by Childhood Cancer International and European Society of Pediatric Oncology to tell you about experiences concerning standards of care of children with cancer, experiences of parents from some European countries, regardless of whether they are members of the European Union or not, but which are certainly on the European continent. And, you know, despite all political, economic, and many other differences, we are strongly united in the struggle against common enemy, which is childhood cancer. Thanks to the International Society of Pediatric Oncology and Childhood Cancer International, since 1994, we've been learning about cancer and treatment, side and late effects, about clinical trials, advocacy and fundraising, but most importantly, how to provide best treatment and care, and what is the most important is to best quality of life, but of the whole family during and after the child's treatment. And during all these years, we learned that there are drastic inequalities when we talk about treatment and care of children with cancer in Europe. So these last results of Eurocare 5 study indicate that children from East European countries do not have equal chances to survive as their peers in another part of the European continent. And this remarkable document, European Standards of Care for Children with Cancer, has different understanding, accepting, and implementing in different countries. In January 2014, the European Partnership in Action Against Cancer released a survey report on the standards of care in pediatric oncology units. And I would like to highlight a few examples just to show you how it looks like from the perspective of a parent who lives and treats a child in East Europe. If there are national cancer plans, they are often even without mentioning of children. And if there are cancer registries, they are without data of childhood cancer. Regarding early diagnosis, I'm not going to talk about medical issue, I'm a parent, but this poster of childhood cancer warning signs was published 2 years ago by Union International for Cancer Control, International Society of Pediatric Oncology, and Childhood Cancer International. And this poster so far has not found a place in the institutions for the primary health care, and it should be there. And there are children's hospitals with only one or no psychologist and social worker in pediatric oncology unit. And there is no palliative care for children. There are many ongoing palliative care projects, but for adults, not for children. Our children are dying in hospitals or at home, very often far from medical help. And a very important issue, the rights of the hospitalized child. We know that there are still places where younger children are tied to cribs because hospitals do not provide conditions for parents to stay with their children. But also, we all know that in almost all East European countries, there are adequate schools and education, and there are professions and certain experts. There are state institutions and legislations that regulate many issues regarding childhood cancer, but they are not implemented for various reasons. But I have to say that despite all these and many other limitations, we are the witnesses of incredible, almost magic efforts of physicians who treat and in most cases heal the child. And these physicians deserve our deep respect, but more than that, they deserve certain help. So we know that there is a number of children from East Europe who are treated in developed European countries. And there is a number of treatments which expenses are covered by health insurance. But also we know that there are treatments which expenses are covered by families. And we know that most of these families sell their property due to the child's treatment. And this picture shows numerous of appeals that we watch every day in our media. So therefore, we are interested in a number of reasons why parents, despite poverty, still decide to have treated their child abroad. So we have been listening to the testimonies of patients from East Europe who are treated in developed European countries. And here are the most important benefits which they pointed out. Supply of all drugs and realization of all diagnostic procedures without delay. And what is so important for our children and young adults, that painful diagnostic and treatment procedures are performed with anesthesia. And it was interesting that they mentioned communication, which means availability of understandable information. And they learned the meaning of partnership in treatment. So therefore, they feel well informed and appreciated. But speaking about benefits, on the other hand, isn't it the best for a child to stay at home, in its home hospital, at hometown and home country? Yes, it is. The best possible solution for a child and his family is if the child's cancer is curable at home. And even in those cases when it's not possible to realize all segments of treatment or precise diagnostics, there are excellent examples pointing to the great cross-border cooperation when children are sent to foreign centers only for those specific reasons, while most of the treatment is conducted at the home hospital. My son is a very lucky young man today, because his leukemia was curable in Belgrade at the time. It was 22 years ago. And my family is so lucky because we were all together and we supported each other. And our other children didn't feel excluded. And what was so important, that our son spent almost the entire time of his treatment at home, not in hospital. And these benefits are priceless. And therefore, Childhood Cancer International strongly supports all initiatives that will provide equal access to the best treatment and care for all children with cancer in Europe. And I'm sure that nobody here cannot ignore the fact that cancer is a killer of our children, as well as the fact that killer can be beaten, but only if you help in overcoming all barriers, and only if you help and allow science and scientists to save our children, the children of Europe. Thank you very much.
I think we appreciate very much your views, and I think we can all subscribe to it. Fortunately, some of the thoughts are already in place, but I'm absolutely aware of the fact that they're not in place everywhere, and this should be the case. Now, we are tackling this issue with a program called Expo Arnet, and Ruth Ladenstein, as our leader in ENCA and also SIOPE board member and former president, will now give her view on the European Reference Network. The pointer is somewhere. Over there. Over here.
Thank you very much, Martin. Today I will try to explain very briefly where we are with a project that really aims to tackle these inequalities that we just heard about. We have heard in the beginning that cancer is still a threat in Europe, and we are losing children and young people still each year. And we do know that we have a great difference in the quality of survival, but also the availability of cancer care across Europe. And in short, it means that 10 to 20% of children and young people die from curable cancer forms where the quality care is not so easily accessible, and we still have major outcome gaps currently, particularly large in poor prognostic cancer. I thought I need to draw your attention really to this well-published great work of the Eurocare 5 study, which is a population-based study, which brings the message very clearly. On the bottom of the slide, in light green, you see the Eastern European countries, and I have placed 2 bars at the 60% level and the 80% level. And you can see here in this report very clearly there's still the disparity across Europe in terms of outcome. So ExpoANET is a 3-year funded project that really aims to build a European reference network, trying to decrease the current inequalities that we are seeing across the different European member states and to tackle these different healthcare capabilities that we are facing these days. It will support the cooperation on the cross-border healthcare, the mobility of the patients, healthcare professionals and informations, and really aims to innovate healthcare delivery. Standards of care, as we just have heard, are not equal across Europe, and we need to bring this message and work intensively together to unify Europe in these standards of care. And we will aim to give young people and children equally the chance to a high-quality, accessible and cost-effective health care. How are we trying to do this? We will link pre-existing reference centers across Europe with tumor boards to provide a cross-border advice. One of the major steps to take is to identify very well the target groups. That means who are the children who are in need of special diagnostic and therapeutic interventions and who need a real particular concentration of resources, knowledge and expertise. How to access this high-quality healthcare for children with cancer? In the way that we detect where are the highly specialized resources, where is the expertise, and how can we actually bring patients and expertise together. And this can be done by different ways, not only by moving the patient, but also by moving the information. And thus also really connecting different member states, because not always the high-level expertise can be found in each member state, particularly when the respective cancer entity is very rare. So together are working more than 60 partners in this project, healthcare professionals, hospitals, institutions from 17 European countries with 18 core partners in 9 European countries and a growing number of collaborating partners involving parents and patients. We already heard about the SIOPE Europe Clinical Research Council that we created within ENCA and have taken to the next level, that unifies the national pediatric oncology groups across Europe, which we need as a very important platform. In addition, it builds on this vast experience over more than 40 years of European collaboration within the different pediatric cancer and leukemia entities. So a number of groups already networking very well, and here we are aiming to take all these resources to the next higher level. One of the biggest challenges that we are having is to really integrate telemedicine and novel IT solutions and tools to really make this flowing information possible in the best interest of patients. And that needs, in particular, the creation of tumor boards that will help to exchange information on the highest quick level to guide patients then thereafter. So we will create a roadmap, and this is a very ambitious project with the help of the national societies and with the help of the respective tumor groups, identifying the very special therapeutic needs that we are currently seeing. That can be very specialized surgery, that could be radiotherapy, as for example proton therapy, and will equally identify the institutions and who are also willing to engage as a reference center, on the one hand, to run virtual tumor boards for the advisory function, but are, if needed, also ready to act as a center of referral and receive these patients. By the end of the day, we hope that this roadmap really will guide healthcare providers in the right way, and it will give a very increased transparency for affected families to be reassured that where they are, this is a good place, and this can be either at home or, if needed, cross-border. In this project, we have started to focus on the very, very rare entities. This is a very rare tumor network, retinoblastoma, hepatoblastoma, and more will follow. I take just a very simple example of the retinoblastoma group here. Retinoblastoma is a very rare malignancy of the eye in young children, and with trying to implement a vision-sparing treatment approach and as a major aim. And the challenges today are that the treatment paradigm is changed and there are new methods like intraarterial and intravitreous chemotherapy used, which need a very special expertise, and this is part of a new approach which is eye-saving. So there are very highly specialized multidisciplinary care teams and working also together closely with the ophthalmologists to make all this happen. The group has already identified centers across Europe, and you see these stars around. And if needed, children need to move to these places that have a star, but each place on top of it shares a different expertise. So networking this brings an extremely new asset to a better cure for these children. This is a very complex table, but I tell you, this is just the start. It's like the top-level summary in very rare tumors, and we have been working and are still working very hard with Expo Annette to see how can we best make these interactions possible. So on the bottom, you have interactions and advice on the national level, but most importantly, how can we create these international case consultation forums where you have all the necessary information in a well-organized manner to be addressed, but also to have a very clear information given back by the experts on how to deal with the specific case and the special question. On top of it, it's necessary to generate knowledge and not to lose this expertise. So a registry will run together with this, and we will create new evidence. So this is very much, in short, what we are aiming for in the various disease entities and which we are currently building. Within the project, we are also running an activity that will be pointed out later on, taking the survivorship passport to the next level, which contains history, the history of cancer treatment, together with treatment information and clinical recommendations for the future. And this is an opportunity that Expo Annette can help to really go to the next step. So because the access to quality advice and care saves children's lives, we are running this because we really know together we are much stronger. And I want to conclude with one thing. Yes, we can do it. Yes, we are a community that has a lot of expertise and knowledge. But to run it, we also need to focus on some financial aspects. And cross-border healthcare financial compensation, for example, for running these tumor board advices, is yet not a solved issue. And this is where we will need the politicians to help and to understand that it's easier to move the information than the patient and it's cheaper. So we need a special compensation system to run these cross-border virtual tumor boards in the future, and that's my plea to all of you who have a say to make it happen. So thank to all the European pediatric collaborators, the supporting medical teams, Childhood Cancer International, the strong collaboration with families and parents, and definitely the funding organizations of the European Union that help us to develop this idea and to move forward.
Thank you very much, Ruth. I think that was a very comprehensive overview of what can be achieved if you network even for very rare cancers in children. Rare means sometimes not more than 1 or 2 patients per year in one country. And we should remind all of you that this is really different even from rare adult cancers, that this is really something exceptional. We are developing, or we have been developing the tools to attack this. And I think we are in a prime position to be successful. ANCHOR was the framework on which this got started, and now we have the additional programs which are instrumental and absolutely necessary to get it evaluated. In the long run, Ruth is absolutely right, we need sufficient funding for the clinicians, for the colleagues who will do this work, because it's usually not paid at all by the local hospital. And this is an issue for the future. Otherwise, this will not survive. The second area in which we would like to focus on is innovation. And we have various activities to overcome something which is all very frustrating, not only for parents and patients, but also sometimes for us clinicians and oncologists. And this has to do with the pace, or the slow pace, of getting innovation into the clinical practice. And I'm very glad that Patricia Blanc is here to speak for Imagine for Margot. She is directly involved with this issue from a personal point of view. And she has been absolutely proactive in Europe to move this forward. Please, Patricia, give us your insights.
Thank you for your invitation. So what I would like to tell you today is why it is urgent to give children and adolescents with cancer access to innovative treatment. Why also it is important to do it now. And what also could be done and is happening, and also the concern that parents have today. So why there is an urgent need for innovation? As it has already been said, cancer remains the leading cause of death by disease for children in Europe. Whilst there have been huge strides made in treatments for young people with cancer, 1 in 5 who get cancer still die from this disease. This amounts to 6,000 young lives being lost across Europe every year. In each country of Europe, there is more than 1 child dying every day of cancer. So this is why it is a public health issue. Why it is an urgent need for innovation? It is also because the pediatric regulation is not efficient for children and adolescents with cancer. The pediatric regulation adopted in 2007 has been a big step to push industry to consider research and development for pediatric drugs in Europe. But it has unfortunately not met our expectation for children and adolescents with cancer, with only 1 oncology drug that has been developed since the regulation was put in place. today, pediatric drugs are still mostly off-label drugs, meaning not legally evaluated and approved for the children. There's also no development of specific drugs. When we know that that cancer in childhood and adolescence are different from adults, they have different disease, there's less molecular mutation, the organ maturation is to consider, there's as well much long-term toxicities. All this is specific. So we should develop specific drugs for the children. Why access to innovation is urgent and we need to do that today? This is important because precision cancer medicine, targeted drugs, immune therapies are major breakthroughs in the treatment of adults' cancer. But children and adolescents with life-threatening disease do not have access to innovation. There are many examples of adult drugs with a potential benefit in children that have been delayed for many years or even abandoned because industry did not want to invest in pediatric or were given the possibility to avoid development within the pediatric regulation. My daughter, as many children, did not get access to innovative drugs. She was diagnosed with a non-curable brain tumor, and the only possible treatment was a 30-year-old chemotherapy developed for adults. 16 months of aggressive treatments, heavy side effects, no possible clinical trial or innovative treatment. There was much more clinical trial in the US than in Europe, much more clinical trials for adults, but very few for a 14-year-old teenager. This is not acceptable. So what can we do? As mentioned already by Professor Vassal, we can work and change attitude and make proposals, like, for example, the work we are doing in the CDDF SIOPE ITCC Pediatric Oncology Platform. This Pediatric Oncology Platform is gathering parents, organizations, and NGOs with academics, industry, regulators, together to develop new drugs for children and adolescents with cancer. This is a unique multi-stakeholders platform that has been published recently. And in this platform, we have 3 working groups. The first working group is about new strategy for improved development in oncology drugs for children and adolescents. This group is also working on some possible changing that could be done, that can be done in the pediatric regulation. The second group is working on new incentives for specific pediatric drugs development and drug repositioning. So in this group that I'm leading, we are actively discussing with industry to see how we could incentivize and make them invest into pediatric oncology drugs. There's a third group, an important one also, about implementation of long-term follow-up measures for the children and adolescents who are receiving those new drugs. We are making progress by working together in the same goal of developing new drugs and give children access to innovation. Some proposal will be concretely presented at the next meeting in January. But what I would like also to tell you is I would like to want you to realize that today we have really some blocking points due to the existing European regulation, a nearly systematic request of waivers from industry, with incentives that are not enough efficient in the pediatric regulation. with no fast assessment process like they have in the US, for example. And we have a very rigid and time-consuming PIP process. So this is already what I said here at the Parliament 3 years ago, after the public consultation on pediatric regulation. And I'm still worried. And actually, I must say that I was shocked when I've heard the European Commission, for example, in June, and again last week, during this meeting with the ENVI Commission and the EMA, where it was said by the European Commission that the pediatric regulation is a success even for pediatric oncology. But this regulation is a success, yes, but not for pediatric oncology. And in addition, what was said is that as pediatric cancer are rare disease, children with cancer can benefit from the rare disease regulation. But the orphan drug regulation is not working either for pediatric oncology. I was also shocked to see that it was said that we cannot evaluate today if it is a success, whereas it has been now 8 years, on how in 8 years we cannot have an evaluation of the programs that have been initiated to develop new drugs. So really, this is why I would like to call for action and call for action now. We have, in order to do that, created this summer, this is a new alliance network of parents' organizations, which is called Unite to Cure. Unite to Cure is supported by many doctors and researchers, parents and NGO organizations from many countries in Europe. And we have decided to unite for better treatments and call for an immediate change in the regulation. This is also why we have support for members of the Parliament, Mrs. Grosstedt and Mrs. Glenis Willmott, who have recently sent a letter to the Commissioner, Mr. Andriukaitis, to tell him that there is an urgent need to act and to act without delay in changing the regulation. So this is my call today. There is an urgent need for innovation, and we need the Commission to hear our call and take action without delay. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Patricia. This was a very clear message, and I think this is also a call for action for all of us, not only on the scientific level, but also on the political level. Thank you very much appreciated, and I think it's a very serious issue, and we will work very hard to get this moving. Before I let Pam, to my left, to continue to talk, I would like to introduce another MEP, who is also a member of the MAC, Mr. Miroslav Mikolasic. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. He will join us later on in the round table. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for coming. Pam Kearns is from England. Pam, you have a wonderful biograph. I have to take a look once more, even though we know each other for a long time. Pam Kearns is a pediatric oncologist from the University of Birmingham. She's highly active in the field of clinical trial regulation. She has been running clinical trials. She has been active in developing templates for future clinical trials, because the legal framework, dear colleagues from the Parliament, is not sometimes so easy to swallow. And we are academics, and we need to get this solved in some way still to run clinical trials for children with cancer. This is a real challenge. Pam is very good on that, and she's one of our leading experts on this. She's also active in the board of SIOPE Europe, in ENCA and in ITCC. So, Pam, you're the perfect person to give comments on innovation after Patricia's speech.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you to Patricia. I think, dear colleagues from the Parliament and from the Commission, I hope, having heard Patricia's heartfelt words, there should be only two questions in your mind. Why has progress been too slow, and what can I do to help? And I hope in the next few slides I can give you some ideas as to how you might do that. We are aware that we are living in a very exciting and innovative stage of science and medicine. There is and the expression used in a recent meeting by Gilles Vassal is a tsunami of new innovation coming to our doorstep for treatment of cancer. But the truth is that is hitting the adult cancer world. And those of you who are involved in this world will be aware that there are many discussions and actions going on to say, how do we bring this innovation to the clinic? How do we accelerate assessment and approval of these drugs so that the patients with cancer can get access to them within the clinic as part of normal clinical practice? But if you put children and teenagers into that equation, we are down here at the bottom box. We aren't saying, how do we get access to all children in the clinic as part of normal practice? We are still at the step is, how do we get hold of these drugs to even evaluate them to see if they're safe and are they effective? So very much at the bottom of the ladder, and that's what we need to change. The paediatric regulation was undoubtedly a good change in the law that had a huge benefit in opening the door for new innovation for children. It was undoubtedly well-intentioned. It mandated industry to consider children in their drug development programs, and industry was rewarded for trying. But in the cancer world, it has not met our expectations. There's been 60 oncology pediatric investigation plans. Most of them are proving unfeasible to deliver. Those of us that work in clinical trials, work in hospitals that are delivering clinical trials, cannot find the patients for these obscure pediatric oncology plans that are being put forward. And so they are undeliverable, and the ones that are even interesting and deliverable are being deferred by industry until the drug development pathway is much further down the line. Only one targeted anti-cancer drug has actually come through for pediatrics. The problem, one of the fundamental problems, is that cancer drug development is still driven by the adult cancer market. And I use the word market advisedly. If there is not an adult indication for this drug will not be developed just because it might be useful for children. And that is, to my view, and the view of the many people we've discussed this with, is the core problem. Industry, who develop these drugs, see the paediatric regulation as a burden. They seek a waiver at every opportunity. They are anxious about the PIPs. They will avoid them. They will delay them. The outcome is no PIP, unfeasible PIPs, or delayed PIPs. And the bottom line is that we have a totally inadequate situation for drug development for cancer in the under 18-year-old age group. Industry drives innovation into the clinic. Sorry to offend the clinicians and the academics, but actually that's where it mostly comes from, and we have to recognise that. Now, we can sit and debate for ages as to whether industry should be altruistic, whether industry has a moral duty to develop drugs for children. And indeed, many of the industry partners we talk to have developed paediatric oncology departments that are looking as to how they develop paediatric oncology drugs. But they are businesses, and business acumen looks for efficiency in getting their products to market and profit, and we cannot argue with that. The barrier of the paediatric regulation has been that it is complex and rigid, it doesn't meet the needs of children with cancer, and is therefore not efficient. It is not cost-effective for rare diseases, and we've heard paediatric cancer is a rare disease or a group of rare diseases. So the incentive actually is not that enough to promote genuine interest from industry if it wasn't mandated. So change is needed, and what we need a paediatric investigation plan process that is more iterative, that takes into account the evolution of drug development, and this is what's being described as the life cycle approach. And in the interest of time, I won't go into that in very much detail now, but I'm happy to answer questions on it. We also need it to be fit for purpose, so that drugs that are being developed on the basis of how they work, not the adult disease for which the company thinks it might be interesting. And the effort that goes into that drug development for paediatrics does need to be rewarded appropriately. Now, it is not all bad. The EMA and the Paediatric Committee have made progress. They have recently revised the class waiver list, which potentially may have a major impact. We need to wait and see. But we have to wait a long time. Its implementation is going to take 3 years. The Paediatric Committee are also implementing an early interaction meeting, allowing companies to meet with the agency and the Paediatric Committee at an early stage in the drug development process, so there can be more open discussion about which paediatric population this drug development might be of interest and how that might be achieved. It isn't a PIP planning meeting, but it's an opening the door for early discussion, so that will increase efficiency. But the real nub of it is, how do we increase reward? What we need are new incentives that will actually attract investment and encourage research into rare diseases and into childhood cancer and teenage cancer. And the United States have embraced this, driven by a mother of a child who had cancer, who set up the Kids versus Cancer charity. The Creating Hope Act was put through Parliament. And just to talk you through this was where something called a priority review voucher was used as a reward to industry. The voucher was awarded to a company who developed a drug for either a tropical disease or a rare pediatric disease. The company got the voucher and they could redeem it against what was called priority review for another drug, not the pediatric drug. This gave them a rapid review, reducing it from 10 months to 6 months. Now you might think, well, that's not really much benefit. But the truth is, it was massively beneficial. And the red line on this shows the one neuroblastoma drug that has gone through this process. And I shall show you on the graph, which is clearer, the purchase price for the voucher was $350 million. That shows you what that voucher is worth. That extra 4 months of early review is worth to industry. This is attractive to industry. Now, could this work in Europe? There's been a lot of arguments that the regulatory system in Europe is different. This can't apply in Europe. It's too difficult. But, as I said at the beginning, there's a lot of discussion about rapid access, adaptive licensing, priority review for medicines, and these pilots are going through the Commission at the moment. So yes, this could work in Europe. Approval of new treatments for rare paediatric conditions, including cancer, could be given a transferable reward. It is up to the Commission and the Parliament to decide what that reward is. Should it be extended exclusivity? Could it be priority regulatory review? This is open for debate. But it can work if you make it happen. We have been working hard, working together with industry, with parents, with the regulators, in multi-stakeholder platforms to try to influence change. What I ask today is that we need to implement change. We need recognition that specific cancer drug development for children and teenagers is crucial, and it needs to be uncoupled from the adult drug development programme. We need a fit-for-purpose PIP process, and we do need to recognise it has to have intrinsic financial value. And dear Commissioners, we need you to accept that there is an urgency. So what I ask is that significant change is made and that you can make it happen. And the quote at the bottom of this slide is from a father of a young girl, teenager at the moment, who has a relapsed brain tumour for which we do not have innovation. And he said to me that he thought it was inconceivable in this day and age that globally there is not a drug that can cure his child. And I think we need to take this on board and do something. The clock is ticking. We need to move innovation into the clinic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pam. The third area that we have picked for today's event is survivorship, because fortunately we have survivors of this type of cancers. And I'm very glad to introduce to you again a pair of speakers, Jaap den Hartog from the Netherlands, who is a survivor, and Ricardo Haupt, who has invested a lot of his professional life in making survivorship more manageable, and who has developed with his team and a European group with the sponsorship of European institutions, something which will help also the doctors to manage this type of cancer. But let's get started with Jaap, please.
Thank you, Martin, for these kind words. Today I want to share some insights from a survivor's point of view regarding some key problems and the needs to be met. You have seen the numbers before. Each year, 35,000 children and adolescents are diagnosed with cancer. And in the more developed countries in Europe, the survival rate is now exceeding 80%. You've seen this in the slides of Ruth. And more than 300,000 survivors of childhood cancer are there in Europe, and I'm one of them. So it's quite an honor to speak on their behalf. And in 2020, it is estimated that there will be 500,000 survivors. But as you already mentioned, this success has a price. And this is that there can be late effects. Late effects that can have a negative influence on the quality of life of these survivors. And to sum up some late effects, you can think of heart failure, kidney failure, infertility, chronic fatigue, but also very severe late effects like risk of second cancers caused by the treatment. And the most severe late effect is an early death. So this is what we are speaking of. Next to that, there are also psychological consequences like fear of a relapse, stress, or reduced self-esteem. And some social consequences like problems with education, work, relationships. People can become isolated. People have difficulties in getting an insurance or a mortgage. So many problems are faced by survivors. And what is needed to improve this quality of survivorship? It starts with creating more awareness of the needs of survivors. Survivors need to speak and share their stories. Next to that, more research is needed. Research to late effects, research to quality of life, the psychological and the social consequences should be researched. A better transition is needed from the pediatric ward to the adult care system, and there should be more long-term follow-up clinics, and all together with survivors, because you have the knowledge, the experience. We have our own experience, and together we can make things better. Speaking of long-term follow-up may improve the health and quality of life of survivors by prevention, by promoting a healthy lifestyle, and an early detection of late effects. Survivors should visit a long-term follow-up clinic from time to time just to be screened on late effects. And when a late effect is diagnosed, it should be treated adequately. But what if there is no long-term follow-up care in your country? As already is mentioned, there are many inequalities across Europe, also on the area of long-term follow-up care. In some countries there is no treatment data available of the primary disease, or there is simply no long-term follow-up. And what can be done at this situation? We should think about this, and I hope this plan will improve this situation. This all creates a lack of awareness of late effects and the risks the survivors have. There is lack of awareness by medical professionals, but also in society in general. And of course, survivors don't know what can come in future. So what can we do about this? We should empower survivors. Survivors should take their responsibility for their own health. And they should be well informed about late effects and long-term follow-up. And how to empower survivors? Well, each survivor should have an end-of-treatment summary containing the medical history and the treatment data. And this end-of-treatment summary should have also some clear recommendations concerning the long-term follow-up. And this brings me to the survivorship passport. And without going into too much detail, because Ricardo is going to speak about this, the survivorship passport is a document with all the treatment data and the cancer history, with some clear recommendations concerning the follow-up. So survivors have the data, they can show it to their GP. And this creates more awareness of late effects. This also makes the transition much easier. So to conclude, surviving childhood cancer is a first step, but we should not forget that survivors have a whole life to live. We should improve the awareness of the needs of survivors. We should create long-term follow-up clinics and make them accessible for survivors. Another problem can be, for example, in my country, the Netherlands, we have to pay €400 each time we visit the clinic, our own risk. This is a problem in my country. So we should work on this as well. We should provide an end-of-treatment summary and recommendations, as is done with the survivorship passport. So the ultimate goal is to cure children with a good quality of life so that they can fully participate in society. And I really hope that this strategic plan is helping reaching this goal. And I wish you all good luck with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jaap. I think 40 years ago we would not have the chance to sit here because we did not have survivors. Today we have survivors, but with severe side and late effects. My dream is in another 40 years, maybe already earlier, we don't have to have you on this podium. We can discuss something else. We don't have to have you here, Ricardo, at least on this topic, because there will be no survivorship issues, because you will be a survivor like a survivor of pneumonia. We will not have a symposium on pneumonia survivors, but we will have a symposium on cancer survivors. Ricardo is the one who, together with others, has really invested a lot of time, as I said, on this issue and has developed a very interesting tool, and he will present it to you now.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everybody. My goal today is to present the survival passport, what it is so far, and how do we plan to implement it into the new models of care for childhood cancer survivors. Before I start, I want just to also like to express my deep solidarity to the French people and to the Parisians in particular for the terroristic attack they had. So as already has been said, the population of childhood cancer survivors is growing. This statistics is from UK. You see in 2001, survivors were 20,000, and the median age is between 20 and 24. They are growing in number and in age. Now, in 2021, it's expected the mean age will be 29 years, so active members of our society, and I don't know if Gilles or Martin said they will be voters. And so this is the dynamic of our society, of this population. It's already said by Irina and Jaap that the experience of childhood cancer survivors is extremely variable across Europe. What I would say that the feeling that they have when they come to us on our meeting, they say that in particular in the transition moment, they do not know, they feel actually that the general practitioner, they do not have the right expertise and they don't know how to manage the follow-up. They feel somehow lost in transition or lost to follow-up. So these are examples from the Pancare Life project that we are running in these days, and in particular on fertility. And these are some answers we get from the questionnaire. Martina says, since one kidney was removed, I was told that I was at risk in case of pregnancy, and this is wrong. And with regret, I decided not to have children, and this is, of course, is bad. Stefania said, I have hepatitis C infection. I was told that in case of pregnancy, there is high risk of a virus transmission to the fetus. This is wrong. And the risk of relapse of myelosarcoma, wrong. Nobody warned me about my ovarian reserve, said Angela. I should have monitored in due time, and this is bad. So this is the situation that they are facing now. This graph, I think, to me, was really illuminating. In blue, you see how chronic conditions occur in the general population. In red, you see what is the situation in childhood cancer survivors. As I said, today's survivors, on average, they are in the early 30s. We are here. We know they have an increased risk of chronic conditions, and it's our mandatory that we need to provide them tailored follow-up and screening. What we do not know is on the right side of the slide, we don't know if the red curve will go like that with an excess lifetime risk will be increasing as compared to the peer of same age and sex, and if the chronic condition will occur even earlier than in the general population. And to do this, we need research on late effects. So what is a survivorship passport? It's a document to be given to the individual patient at the end of therapies, paper and electronic based, written in a simple way. It contains cancer history, therapy information, provides advice and guidance on patient-specific long-term follow-up on possible late effects. It is written and translatable in all languages of Europe. So there is a database with all the medical information without going into details. There are guidelines that are being developed within Pancreas of our project, and that will be translated under the ExportNet project. And of course, we need a secure website, and nowadays is in the Cineca service in Italy. Guidelines, we are speaking about guidelines. Of course, we need a high-quality, long-term follow-up across Europe, and that must be based on guidelines developed on evidence-based methods. If we have guidelines that recommend proven and effective intervention and will discourage the ineffective one, we reduce morbidity and mortality, improve quality of life, and properly allocate health economic resources. These are the guidelines development plan we have in Pancreas of UP. Without all the organs we are targeting, without going into details, we are here now. Some papers are already out, published in the medical literature. Some are already submitted and ready to go. And we have already plans for the upcoming years. We give us a traffic light code. So if a recommendation is green, means a strong recommendation, you should do that particular type of screening. Down to red, not recommended. The screening is more harmful than benefit. The guidelines, as I said, we are preparing brochures as soon as they come out with the medical literature. We already did breast cancer in English and in German. We did cardiomyopathy in English and in German, and Italian, of course, is the next one and will come very soon. This is a plan. We are under ExportNet, the translation plan. As you see, there are almost all in European languages, and then down on the bottom there is also Hebrew, Japanese, and Arabic, because of these colleagues worldwide, they were interested in this project, and they are already doing the translation of the passport. And this is a plan we are doing for the next years. As you see, there are the new guidelines that are already ready to go for the next few years. Okay, so if you are a patient from, let's say, from UK, you move to Germany or to Italy, the passport can be automatically translated in the new language. The passport will be signed and printed and signed by the physician. At the end of within the passport is built an algorithm that because of the treatment you received, you will have a green, yellow, orange recommendation to do, let's say in this case, breast cancer and cardiomyopathy. Of course, it's responsibility of the physician to decide and change if he needs the passport. The passport will go into a folder. In the folder you put the treatment history plus the recommendations that are patient-specific. How do we plan to develop? Of course, we wanted to develop a mobile application of the passport. Very important, we wanted to prospectively collect follow-up data. So what is the outcome of our guidelines? We wanted to use standard outcome definitions. We wanted to have feedback from survivors via the mobile and a built-in survivor-specific platform. And to do that, of course, we are already working to putting together a grant proposal for Horizon 2020. Implementation of the passport in the everyday life is important. We need to implement transition programs with internists and general practitioners. This will enable information exchange to adopt appropriate survivor-specific screening programs and don't happen what Jaap was mentioning before. We need absolutely integration with the healthcare plans of member states. If we will have this integration and there will be policy strategies for secondary prevention and early diagnosis of disease that can be treated, that if they are treated at an early age, they will improve quality of life survivors, reduce the cost of the society to support the advanced chronic condition that now we are facing of today's survivors. So the survivors has two sides of the same coin. Care is useful to empowering survivor, smoothen the transition from childhood into adulthood with treatment summary and guidelines, and we will probably use we will better use national health system resources. Research, early identification of epidemic emerging rare events. We have new drugs that are coming in. We don't know anything about the possible rate effects. This is the tool. Identification of new risk factors, and so we will move from a cure to any price to cure at the least price as possible. In conclusion, I think that the survivor passport should be a standard of care in the follow-up of childhood cancer survivors. It might be a useful document for the transition process from childhood into adulthood. If we will have homogeneous shared follow-up recommendation across Europe, we will reduce inequalities within and between countries. Prospective collection of outcome data will also allow early identification of new epidemics, even if occurring late after treatment exposure. The partners are Child Cancer International, of course, SIOPE, PanCare, and all the grants that were kindly provided by the European Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Riccardo. In the last few minutes, we would like to assemble a round table here on stage. All of you who are participating are aware of this. I'm sure we have, I think, 1 or 2 people missing, as far as I understood from Olga. And I would like to ask the others to join us here on the floor, up on stage. Alois Peterle will be back in 1 minute. He had an urgent phone call to answer. So, Pam, you're there. Patricia, you are still there? No, there you are. Isabel, Miroslav, and who's replacing Joan Kelly? Here, there you are. Good. And Nessa Childers is, I think she's missing, and that's it. Yes. So, as we do not have plenty of time left, let me get started. And after listening to these different perspectives, I would like to get started with you, Patricia. What do you think is the expectation from your personal point of view for this cancer plan? Is it realistic? Do you think we will have a good chance to achieve these goals in the near future? And are you more optimistic than you were 2 or 3 years ago?
Thank you. So that's a good question. I think what is important with this strategic plan is that actually we have something formalized and we have a strategy. So that was not here 3 years ago. So that is really a good thing. And parents and academics has worked together in this strategic plan. So it's, I think, really realistic. And as parents as well, we really like the objectives of this plan. Now, I have a concern regarding the implementation of this strategic plan. My concern is about the funding. And when I read, for example, the funding strategy, page 42, we have concern here about where the funding will come from and how we will get the fund to really implement this strategy. Because that is key. If we don't have the money to do it, okay. So we can see that parents' organizations, charities and foundations will be asked to give money, okay. But we won't go very far with that. There's also the industry. I'm not sure the industry will give much for this. We'll see. Now, what about the other funding bodies, and what about Europe? We had a very nice program, ENCA, who did a lot of things regarding children with cancer, but now ENCA finished in December 2015, meaning next month. So what is going to happen? Are we going to have any fund from Europe? If I'm not mistaken, there was Horizon 2020 calls recently for pediatric cancer. Out of 12 projects, only one was accepted. Some of them were very well rated, like 4 on 5, and has not been actually approved. And so I'm worried about, will we get funding from Europe? Because this recent fact that the projects were not approved for pediatric oncology show that this is not actually a priority. So my question is, how will we get the fund to implement this strategic plan?
Patricia, I share your concern. I think this was a fantastic starting point, and I think we made major progress here. But we have not finished this journey, and we are just at the beginning. We have heard during the speeches in the last hour that we have good opportunities, but we are for sure not at the end of the road. So funding is a major issue. Pam Kearns pointed out very clearly that you can develop incentives to industry to develop new agents, but in the majority of cases, in the vast majority of cases, this has ended without any results. 1 out of 60 drugs has been developed for childhood cancer. This is a very poor outcome. If the outcome of our clinical trials would be that poor, I would change my job. Now we are sitting in the parliament, and fortunately we have people here who have political insight, and maybe I can move Patricia's point to you and ask for your comment. What is your perspective after you have listened to all of this and after you have seen this plan?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me and for having me here. Thank you, all of you, for coming and debating these important issues. We are here because we don't have quick answers. The question is very serious, and I was listening to Madame Patricia Blanc before when she was sitting here, and what she said, what you have said, was ce que vous avez dit concerning the urgency, and it's something that politicians have to understand. Now, I can understand it maybe more easily, having my medical doctor's background, so I can understand very well what we are discussing here, and I'm on your side, of course, 100%. Now, the European Parliament, differently from national parliament, is not having, members of European Parliament do not have a possibility of a so-called legislative initiative. I cannot propose a text of legislation myself. Neither the group of MEPs, it doesn't exist in Europe. We only have a European Commission responsible for issuing legislative texts of different levels. Now, I was elected in 2004 to this House, so the pediatric regulation, I was there when it was adopted, etc. It was fantastic, but this is 2015 and it is becoming overpassed, and we, as we have discussed, you have shown that specific questions in pediatric oncology, it doesn't seem that it is not enough to repeat every time that a child newborn or adolescent is not the smaller adult. We have to have a specific approach. We have to have specific research. We have to have specific clinical trials when it comes to children, to pediatric questions. And I welcome very much also this initiative about the passport, which is also very important initiative. But before we have the passport and everything, we need money. Like it's all about, well, you know, Europe in the history has been moved every time by the force of ideas. But it seems that currently we need money beside ideas and beside results. And without funds, we cannot move forward. And that's why we need two things here in Europe. We have to convince the Commission, European Commission, the DG Santé, you know, the health ministerium of this United Europe, and Commission has to come with the text of legislative text, and you may have different levels of legislation. You may have a declaration, you may have a directive, and you may have a regulation. The regulation is the highest possible, legally binding text, and it would be ideal if the Commission would prepare, without any delay, the text, the text of regulation, which would be ideal position. Now, as you know, nobody is. Well, we all and the Commission people are overwhelmed by many duties, and I understand them. But also this is how it is in the gospel. You have to knock on the door and it will be open. I mean, this is what we are doing here. You know, I think we have to knock and we have to push and we have to be perseverant and we have to speak to the Commission. And if you would need, like it was said when you spoke about colleague Françoise Grostet and the other one who tabled a question to the Commission, I'm prepared to help you if you need this kind of push and this kind of concentrated approach to make Commission understand. I think they understand, but to make them feel that it is urgent, that if you would consider, you can approach me anytime and I will be cooperative. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I think we are very glad. We means in this context, parents, patients, and us, clinicians and researchers, that you are on our side with this initiative in the Parliament, and we appreciate this very much. When we started ENCA, considerations about ENCA 6 years ago, we were faced, and it was right, that we are too dispersed, that we have different activities in parallel. Willem van der Loo is sitting there, and I was talking to him at that time in a Vienna meeting, and that was, for me, personally, the key point to say, okay, we have running fantastic work in leukemia, but we need to join forces. And we have delivered. Jill, we have delivered, and this is the document which is on the table and which you presented very nicely at various occasions, and this was the most important occasion today. So Patricia is right. Now we have delivered one part, and now others are again there to help us to implement this more efficiently. We cannot wait for long-term solutions. We need to continue this quite effective work immediately. Maybe you can comment on this from DG Health.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say at the outset that I have prepared a little presentation. I don't know if it's possible to... But
here it is.
Okay, but before starting my presentation, I just wanted to say I might not be able to cover all your questions that have been raised also in the panels before on legislative instruments, on ongoing negotiations, but I just would like to say that they've been taken note of, that they will be reported back, and that they have not been ignored in any case. So I'm trying just to give a brief overview, actually, on EU action on cancer in 3 slides, trying to be very brief. And at the outset, I would like to mention that this is probably the area in health which has the longest history, with 30 years, actually, of action, and which was started in 1985 at the European Council in Milan. And how does this work?
There. Mm-hmm. Maybe in this direction.
Which one?
Yes.
Okay. And actually, already with the first cancer plan, a few pillars which were adopted, which are actually still also the basis of our action today. My presentation is divided in 3 main parts, which is the past, the ongoing action, and an outlook to the future. So as you can see, the main pillar of our action is based on the treaties, which is largely a support to member states in their endeavors to tackle cancer. And of course, the reasoning behind this is to tackle inequalities in survival within the member states. And the pillars, which were actually continuously implemented since the first cancer plan, were prevention, including primary and secondary prevention, screening, helping member states in implementing screening programs, and also cancer data and information, and of course research. And today, the field of cancer within the Commission is governed by the expert group on cancer control, which advises the Commission on future action and also legislative action. So what is ongoing today, I will focus essentially on the mechanism of joint action, which involves both the Commission and the Member States. And the basis of our action is a communication which was published in 2009, which basically reiterates and renews the Commission's commitment in the field of cancer. And it's a long-term commitment which was implemented together with the Member States through 2 joint actions. And I've mentioned 2 main outcomes for both of them, for the Partnership for Action Against Cancer, which finished in 2013 and which helped to establish in 25 out of the 28 member states a national cancer plan. And of course, within this joint action, there are also a number of wider actions, and this is just one of the main outcomes. This joint action was followed by the current cancer control joint action, which will have one key deliverable, which is the European Guide on Quality Improvement in Comprehensive Cancer Control. So in relation to these joint actions, how does childhood cancer fit in? I would just like to mention a few examples. For example, in EPAC, there has been already a lot of work in this field. For example, exchange of best practice, relevant also for healthcare for children with cancer, and also work packages which deal with survivorship. And in this context, I would like to mention specifically in the CanCon joint action, there's a whole work package which deals with the European organizational framework on survivorship, and which will develop recommendations which will be applicable in different contexts, taking into account age, workplace, and a wide range of issues. And there is also a platform for member states where they can exchange views on topics which they are finding more interesting. And there is also one topic which will be tackled in this platform, which is dealing specifically with inequalities. and the results will be published in form of a policy paper. I see there's one slide missing, but I'm not sure. Okay. So I would also like to say a few words on the future joint action on rare cancers, as it has been identified by the member states that there is a potential to better address rare cancers, and this will build on existing frameworks within the national cancer plans and the rare diseases plans as well. And the setup of the action will be, again, the institutions of member states, as well as the Commission and scientific, as well as patients' organizations. And I would like to mention also here a few points, because this joint action is not yet set up, but it has also the potential to have a specific approach on pediatric cancers, dealing with several issues which can have an impact in this field. One example is to provide tools or framework which can be appropriate for joint patient-physician decision-making processes. And another example can be the problems which arise after therapies which need to be considered in healthcare planning. So in conclusion, I would like to mention after this brief overview that actually you have seen that there is a huge support from member states, but at the same time you've also seen that this action is basically a partnership, and the organizations which are involved in this work play a key role, and the Commission is actually committed to maintain this dialogue and to keep these issues high on the agenda in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So what is your personal view? Are you optimistic that in 5 years the landscape is different?
Well, I haven't been around for so long, I have to say, so I wouldn't dare a prognosis for the future. But I think definitely the role that non-governmental organizations play is very important to us and will definitely play an important role. And the issues which have been mentioned today are certainly noted and will be taken into account.
Jill.
Sorry, but I need to say something.
Please.
Thanks very much. We know the fact that the European Union considered cancer as a very important point. Here you have a document that an entire community together defined, established. We know what needs to be done. And thanks to the European Union, it was supported by ENCA. Without ENCA, we would not be here today. But then what you are mentioning, which is true, there is a joint action on rare cancer. When the discussion started in January, in this joint action, the people thought that cancer in childhood was solved. It took 1 year of convincing everyone to be sure that in this joint action there would be a dedicated work package to address specifically the needs of children and adolescents with cancer. We are talking about budget. 40 people, 40 partners, very committed in joint action, 3 million euros over 3 years. What will this joint action do, and how this can really help us in making this, thanks to the Commission, thanks to the Parliament, a real strategic plan, real European plan, implemented in each of the national cancer plan. And I think this is what the community says today. We know that you think it is important, but we would be very, very pleased to have the Parliament on one hand and the Commission on the other hand consider there is a major breakthrough here that needs to be supported by from the Commission, fund from the European Union, fund from Horizon 2020, even from DG Health. So please take the message up into DG Santé, Chafea, whatever, and tell them they are ready. They know what to do. They want to do it together. And it's a unique situation. I'm not sure you have many forums in oncology when you see in the same room oncologists, patients, survivors, and here parents. So it's a very strong message that we bring to you and also to the member of the parliament. How can you, member of the parliament, tell the Commission this is a plan, this is a priority, among other priorities, but needs to be considered?
Let me add one more comment. I think the NGOs are extremely helpful, and we have a very prominent representative to your left. And I think NGOs can indeed contribute to many areas. They do, by the way. They contribute successfully in, for example, also in psychosocial care. Irina made the point this morning, an hour ago. But they cannot take over all the responsibilities that are lined up in this plan. And Jill, I can only agree, this needs much more significant funding from different resources here at this level.
No, Professor, thank you very much. I didn't want to... No, I just wanted to react to your comment. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not so much in a position to comment on this. There is a certain mechanism which sets up the joint actions and which has to be respected. But of course, I mean, what you're saying is not to deaf ears. So thank you very much.
So we need something else, specific to pediatric cancer. That's the point. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't understand. You would like to set up...
So the point is how the European Union would identify an action that would really help implementing this plan, from research, from care.
Yes, what I was saying is that there is a specific process to set up actions, to fund projects, and I'm not here to say yes or no. I'm just here to listen. Absolutely. Thank you.
And we know that you will bring the message.
We have the European Cancer League represented here with us, and I would like to hear your statement on the issues that we have discussed here today.
Thank you very much, Martin. And I first want to send you apologies from our immediate past president, Joan Kelly, who was scheduled to be here, but unfortunately she had something urgent and couldn't be here. So I am here. I am Wendy Yared. I'm the director of the Association of European Cancer Leagues. We are a network of cancer societies from all over Europe, and this is the expanded Europe, so we have members ranging from Iceland to Turkey. We represent the mainly national cancer leagues on the ground, and they are the ones who are in touch directly with the general population. So they are the ones who are helping us reach and get things done really at the local and ground level. We're also very proud to supply, to provide the secretariat for this group, who is co-organizing this meeting here today, the MEPs Against Cancer, led by, chaired by Mr. Petterly, and also where our MEP Miroslav is also an MEP. So, well, ECL, we very much welcome the SIOPE cancer plan. We think that it is long overdue. Patricia, you said it's urgent, and we need things to happen immediately. And I mean, unfortunately, having now worked here and being the director at European Cancer Leagues for 10 years now, we also find it very urgent, but we know that things take time. But I mean, it took this long to get, so I'm very glad, we're very, very pleased to see this plan out. We have been involved, for example, in the Rare Cancers Europe group, and SIOPE has also been involved in that group, and that was established years and years ago, but we're still working on some concrete actions there. Let me say that ECL very specifically, especially, would like to support your objective 4, to bring equal access across Europe. We talk about it all the time, the issue of inequalities, and we try to do a lot, I think, but not enough is being done. So to put it in the paper here like this, it's very, very important. And I want to stress that we see inequalities, not only across countries, but also within countries. And also your objective 6, to improve the quality of survivorship. We very much would welcome advances in care and treatment, because we do expect to see more survivors. It's already been mentioned. There are going to be more survivors. We need to improve and increase our support for the survivors and to address them properly. Earlier this year, we had a conference next door at the Committee of the Regions on survivorship, and this was actually a deliverable from the joint action on cancer control that Isabel just mentioned. And we would like to, and it was such a success, and we think that we have raised a level of awareness, but we think there's a lot more to be done. So we're discussing on how to now take this forward. So how can we help at ECL? Well, we represent members on the ground, all the member societies, so we can definitely help advocate for your objectives. Again, going back to the activities within the EU joint action, you saw that Isabel very quickly presented one of the work packages on rehabilitation and survivorship. We are also a partner there. And I was having I was talking with Professor Vassal before the meeting, and because I have here a draft that this particular work package on survivorship and rehabilitation has been working on. And I noticed that right now, the current draft as it stands has 25 pages, but I could only find on 2 pages where childhood cancer is mentioned. And on those pages, it was only in 1 sentence. So maybe we can help you put more information in here to make sure that it is given more visibility in this. These are the EU policy recommendations that will come out of this joint action. So this is one way that perhaps we can work together in supporting you on this. So also among our particular activities at the European Cancer Leagues, we have a very active and strong working group called the Patient Support Working Group. And there we have several areas that we're working on very, very hard. And they include rehabilitation, employment, the areas that Jaap has just mentioned, insurance issues, because these are issues that people overlook. They think, okay, survivorship, you survived it, you're fine now. No, there are so many more issues that we have to address. The issues that are around you trying to get insurance, trying to, if you're in a job and trying to, going back to work, you will need follow-up visits. These are things that employers need to also understand. So perhaps there, within the Patient Support Work Group, this is something that we're working on very hard with our members on how to improve the situations for cancer survivors. I think this is one area that we can help. And then just some final points from our immediate past president, Joan Kelly of the Irish Cancer Society. The Irish Cancer Society will be hosting the International Psycho-Oncology Conference in Dublin next year, and I have some bookmarks there for your information. And that's going to take place from 17th to the 21st of October. And we know that SIOPE, you will also be organizing your meeting around the same dates. And they would very much welcome a dialogue with you to see perhaps we could organize a joint session with the Irish Cancer Society in this conference, really just to get the word out and to raise awareness for that. But we are here, European Cancer Leagues. We are based in Brussels. We work already very closely with SIOPE, but I think there is an opportunity to work more also at the national level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wendy. We are out of time, but before I give the final word to you, Dr. Peterle, I would like to give the last word to Pam and to ask you one question. What is your expectation, Pam, in 5 years? Are we advanced compared to today?
In the interest of time, I will be brief. My hope is that we are advanced. My expectation, based on some of the discussions I've heard in the panel, is I am anxious that we will change. And my anxiety is on 2 levels. One is that I think there is a lot said about cancer, about rare cancers, and then childhood cancer is, well, we're doing this and we can bring children's cancer on board. I think what this meeting has demonstrated is the existing network and organisation that is paediatric oncology, both from the parents, the clinicians, academia, and our interactions with the regulators. And I really worry about the phenomenon of the lowest common denominator. There's a huge amount of work to be done for cancer. We've done a lot already in paediatric oncology, but the job is not done. We don't want to be brought back to the starting point while adult cancer catches up. We are a long way ahead. The strategic plan shows how far we are ahead. What we want is for the Commission, the Parliament, the national governments to recognise that and give us the investment to keep us ahead, keep us moving forward, and not wait for everybody to catch up.
Thank you very much. So within less than 60 seconds to summarize very well. Dr. Peterle, would you be so kind and finish this up with your statement?
Thank you very much for upgrading me to a doctor status, but I'm not doctor, I'm not medical doctor, as majority of 51 members of this House are not. But there are few of them. Dr. Miroslav Mikulášek, my friend, is one of them. And we don't... I would say majority of us, we were not experts. I think that maybe many of my colleagues don't understand the difference between the cancer in adults and cancer in children. But we are all experts for inequalities within Europe. And you will not find an MEP who wouldn't be aware of that how many inequalities are there, especially in the health as far as health is concerned, in cancer in particular. And I'm very thankful to SIOPE to be here because we have to be informed. And I like this Troika format, civil society, European Commission, European Parliament. We have different duties. Sometimes we are asymmetric in understanding of what has to be done. But we are not here just to listen. We are here to do progress together because we are those who can make a difference. And the Commission is the only institution which has legislative initiative. No, then once we are given something, we can change a lot. But we can also ask Commissioner questions and so on. So I think that what we wish, all of us, is to have dynamics in the process, to have results, to be efficient, and to have continuity. I'm pleased to identify the European Cancer Plan for Children and Adolescents as the long-term vision of the entire child cancer community, to increase the cure rate, improve the quality of survivorship, and foster multi-stakeholder dialogue and cooperation for the best result. And I believe that this plan will inspire many future initiatives in the field, thus improving the quality of life for survivors by collaborative models and enabling EU initiatives, in particular on eradicating inequalities in access to treatment, care and expertise, boosting innovation in medicines development, and securing optimal organization of follow-up care for survivors. So I think we need a strong solidarity and stronger sharing, I consider these 2 hours we spent together as a contribution to more in the future. I think that the messages were clear. The plan is strategic oriented, and I wish that we do progress in that sense, and that Commission will come also with answers in due time, because everything what we are doing here is aimed at better status of European citizens, and many of them are patients, and we wish that the inflow of cancer patients also in children is diminishing in the future. And this is where we how to invest we didn't speak so much about prevention as we usually do, but I think we all share the same views on the importance of prevention. So thank you very much for coming. We are here. You didn't see so many MEPs, but there are many assistants who were attentively following what you were telling us. And thank you very much, and good luck in your efforts to do more for the health of our children. Thank you.